Well, hey everybody, this is Chris DiFurio with Keys to the Shop. Welcome to another edition of Shift Break. Today's episode is brought to you by La Marzocco, who has been creating espresso machines by hand in Florence since 1927. La Marzocco espresso machines are the epitome of innovation, reliability, all built on the feedback from their customers, the retail coffee professionals just like yourself, over all of these years, again, since 1927. That's how they've developed the great reputation they have. And when you think about espresso machines, it's one of the first that you think of. An example of that innovation, of course, is the KB90 espresso machine, which has the built-in scales for espresso accuracy. It has the straight-in locking portafilters that they developed to increase the ergonomics for baristas working those heavy bar shifts. And it also has the auto flush, which helps workflow and cleanliness. It's just one of many examples of machines that they have developed to fit a variety of needs. And so La Marzocco is available to help you make that decision if you reach out to them over at info@lamarzocco.usa.com. Their salespeople will help you through the process of selecting the right equipment for your context. You should also check them out over at their website, lamarzocco.usa.com. Today's episode is also brought to you by Espressly, who's creating custom branded mobile apps for independent coffee shops to really connect their customers with their brand while also providing a convenient ordering option. Your customers really want to be connected to your coffee shop. That's why they go there. That's why they are regulars. And when you want to enter into the world of apps and mobile ordering, you want to be able to connect to the culture of your place and customize that experience for your guests. And that's what Espressly really excels in. This is a no-risk model for you. There's no development fees. You get a drive-through payment scanner, receipt and label printing capabilities. All of the data is stored in the app, and it integrates with some of the world's best payment processing systems out there, including Square. To learn more and sign up today, go to espressly.co. That's espressly.co. Okay, everyone. Well, today on Shift Break, we're going to be talking about rules of engagement. Now, we're big on the idea that your core values that you have as a company have to be things that you have planned for executing in action, putting into action in a daily basis. This is the core of who you are, how you show up at work. So it's not just enough to have core values, even though they might be well thought out. We have to kind of tease out exactly what that means in the practical day-to-day. And of course, one of the things that is very frustrating for most people employed in a coffee shop is communication. And therefore, we need rules of engagement that are based on core values for how we communicate with one another. That could be manager to manager. It could be barista to manager. However those relationships go back and forth, there needs to be some kind of a guiding principle, or principles rather, that will act as a filter for the things that, we have an impulse to say or do, and it might not be the best thing for us to say or do. It might not be the most loving thing for us or the most charitable, but at the same time, these rules of engagement cannot negate feedback and honesty and vulnerability and hard conversations. So when we're talking about making rules for how we communicate, this has to be a discussion that involves everybody, because frankly, if you have authority, you have to have a certain distrust of your own perspective. You've got to get outside perspective and things that'll keep you honest, so you're not just stacking the deck in communication in your favor. And involving everybody in the process of coming up with these rules is key. So here's what that looks like, rules of engagement. Really what we're talking about here is coming up with a short list of ways that we want to be communicated with that are going to be related to the values that you currently have. And how we arrive at that list is really important. Gathering together your team to have a brainstorming session about exactly what they value and what they want in terms of communication is the first step. So you get yourself a whiteboard or a chalkboard or something like that, something that everybody can see, and you invite people to kind of call out rules for communication that they think would be healthy for the company for the team to use as guidelines for their communication. So that would mean you might end up with a long list of 20, 25 different words and phrases and concepts and characteristics and things like that. Now your job in the discussion is going to be distilling that list down to about 3 or 4, maybe even 5 things that everybody can remember, because there's going to be some redundancy. Somebody might say something like servant leadership, and another person might say humility. So you could say, well, those are kind of the same thing in a way. How could we sum that up in one phrase? So as the facilitator of this meeting, you, whether you're the owner or manager or whoever, you want to be able to have discussion take place, because this is something you want to create collectively. It helps because there's buy-in now. We're getting active feedback as we go. And once you get down to a list of those 3 to 5 things, then you've got something really powerful, because the day-to-day work in the cafe oftentimes drains us, and it makes us emotionally vulnerable to outbursts or internal battles emotionally, where we really don't believe the best about either our coworkers or our bosses or our employees. And when we agree to a particular set of values regarding communication or how we just approach people, maybe we want to approach people with a spirit of collaboration, and having already come up with ways that we could be of service to their department or their area. There's different things that you might come up with that will help even before the communication takes place. We need something that's easy to remember, that we actively took part in creating, and that's more likely to come up in our minds during those times and help the culture stay healthy instead of turning toxic. And like I said, these are things that you want to have be true for how baristas communicate to one another, how managers communicate to one another. And you might have slightly different rules of engagement when it comes to how administration discusses things amongst one another, because they have different job descriptions. So that might be something you do also. Say, okay, we've got these rules of engagement. Does it look slightly different for managers, one to another? It's really critical that you use your values as a company as a tool to curate culture, and having conversations and connecting the daily work with those things in this way and other ways is really key to that, because we can't just wish culture into existence. We have to practice it. We have to give opportunity for people to take part in it and see and witness it growing. And by calling attention to things like how we communicate, it'll help keep communication on point and prevent communication from being this generalized source of angst, and turn it into a specific tool of encouragement and collaboration and culture. So I encourage you to take some time, meet with your staff, meet with your management team, and develop your own set of rules for communication and how you approach one another in the business. The more collaborative and the more specific we can get in this process, the better. And I really hope it helps you and your team. So I hope that today's episode was helpful for you. Thank you so much for taking the time to join me. And I will see you here next week on another edition of Shift Break. From keys to the shop.